item on our schedule is our first panel discussion. It is my honor to make welcome the moderator for this session, who will come and take his seat first. He is a former head of department at the Electronic and Computer Engineering Department at the University of Port Harcourt, and also the National Coordinator of the European Union Erasmus Embedded Artificial Intelligence Program in Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me give a warm welcome to Engineer Professor Bordillion Omijeh. Can I please appreciate him? And of course, the first panelist who will be joining Professor Bordillion here is a special guest whom I just introduced. Can we please make welcome with a round of applause, Mr. T.S. Jackrich. Can we please celebrate him as he joins us right here for this panel? Thank you, sir. I will also be welcoming back to the podium the keynote speaker who just stepped out. He will be returning back to this panel. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me celebrate Mr. Gbite Falade one more time, the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of Aradel Holdings PLC. All right, gentlemen, I believe the microphones in front of you are all working, so we'll just test them before we go straight into the party. Just speaking to them, say aye.
Hi.
Mr. Jackrich, sir. Switch it on.
Hi.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gbite.
Hi.
Ladies and gentlemen, the party starts now. Can we please appreciate Professor Bordillion Omijeh as he takes it on?
Thank you. I'm privileged to anchor this section, and I'm also privileged to have some erudite experts. And we have some game-changing questions for them, and we need game-changing solutions. In this current world of the fourth industrial revolution, one thing is foremost, and that is innovation. And I believe that we'll have a lot of inspiration from this section. Now, to the audience, I want to plead with you. Let's listen very attentively. This session promises to be inspiring, insightful, and educative. I have two sets of questions. One, the general question, then the specific questions based on area of specialization and expertise. And I want to play with you because of time. We'll just scale down to about 3 minutes each. The first question is, we're actually dealing with the theme guaranteeing Africans exit from energy poverty. Energy poverty is very key. How do we guarantee the emancipation of Africa from energy poverty through natural gas? Project financing and development with a focus on Nigeria. Strategies and actionable steps. My first question is this: what does natural gas project financing and development entails? They're actually two in one question. And number two, how can Africa leverage on it to eradicate energy poverty and drive economic growth? Permit me to call on any of you. Go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. I think the first decision that we need is the right government policies that ensure the right legislation, and then regulatory framework that enables that investor entry, build investors' confidence to be able to have the right financial structure, because access to capital is key to be able to put in infrastructure. Not only that, to ensure that those infrastructures are bankable, just like the last speaker said. It's important to have clear, predictable government policies that is backed by legislation that can outlive terms, because it's difficult to access funding if there are no consistent policies. Where there are policy, mismatch. But sometimes you have regulations and then you have a government comes in to introduce policies that disrupt that. So that consistency is very important from the policy point of view, from the legislation point of view, and also from the regulatory point of view, to ensure bankable investment, to enable infrastructure to drive energy sustainability. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Do you have anything to add, please?
Yes, just to add to it, the project just has to be bankable. And what does the bankability mean? It means in simple terms that when the investor or the financier is looking at your business plan, they see the cash flow into the future. So take, for example, I want to build a CNG plant. The banker, before he puts his money, would like to see who is going to buy that from me. Would like to see indicative agreements that says they're going to buy it. Would like to see at what price I'm selling to them. Would like to see, to be sure that the person who is going to buy is able to continue in operation for the next maybe 10 years or more, to assure them that I can continuously sell that gas to be able to repay the facility for investing in the infrastructure. They also want to see to make sure that the pricing makes sense. They want to see to make sure that you've got a good OEM, a good contractor or vendor that is going to develop it. You have a good maintenance contract in place. They just want to make sure that all the elements are in place, that their capital is not at risk. Because most times, gas investment infrastructure they are recourse to the cash flow in the future, which will continue to pay down the loan. So they just want to be sure that when they borrow you that money, you will not come back at some point to tell them that, sorry, I'm unable to pay. Okay. So that's a major consideration that comes in for gas investment. It just has to be bankable.
Thank you so much. Can we applaud them, please? The next question is, does Nigeria suffer energy poverty? If the answer is yes, then identify and explain 2 strategies or actionable steps that could significantly reduce such poverty in Nigeria without further hindrance. Any of you can take up the question. I see you smiling.
Well, the point is that we have to guarantee domestic gas supply, which is very important. That's key. And all these also boils down to the right policy framework to support investment, because if you have a challenge, there has to be that enabling environment to address the challenge. I mean, I also suffer the same thing from the business point of view. My field is an isolated field that we have enormous amount of gas reserve, over 1.2 trillion TCF. But the challenge is we are not able to make a bankable decision because the pricing model that was given to us was not bankable. Despite the fact that we took a bold step pre-COVID to go into some investment, we got stuck at a certain point in time, because when you look at the pipeline infrastructure that you have to put in, you don't have that policy support that incentivizes you to do that. So to guarantee domestic gas supply, we need an incentivized, policy framework to be able to get that done.
Thank you so much. Do you have anything to add?
Yes. To the question you asked, the answer is yes, we have energy poverty in Nigeria. Every day that somebody has to cook with charcoal, somebody has to cook with firewood, we have energy poverty. Any day that somebody has to go to bed without electricity, somebody has to use candle in order to see or to study, we have energy poverty. To put it in broad terms, per capita energy statistics in Nigeria is about 185 kilowatt hour. In South Africa today, their per capita is above 4,000. In Europe, it's above 6,000. In the US, it's above 12,000. We have severe energy poverty in Nigeria. And how can we get out of it? We can get out of it by taking segmental views. We can start by saying we want to put in place policy that enhance the manufacture and the supply of LPG to tackle the one of cooking. And we have seen how NLNG, which is the biggest LPG producer in Nigeria today, has moved from a position where part of their LPG production was being exported to everything now locally being made. We need to look at incentives, import duty waivers, and things that will encourage people to, go into LPG just to make it affordable and available to our people. That's one way. What I've spoken to earlier on in my keynote speech about policy changes in the power sector, linking that with the gas sector, can also help us to have more of geothermal stations that will help. Today, we still have a central transmission grid, a TCN. It should be the next focus of attention.
Okay.
In order to make sure that the capacity to wheel freely generated electricity across is solid. The more we're able to do this, the more we will be able to make more energy available and affordable.
Great. Please, can we put our hands together for them? Now, we'll move to the last question under the general section before we go to the area of specialization. Nigeria has always been described as a gas province with a little touch of oil. What strategies and actionable steps should we deploy to ensure that the abundance of these natural resources called gas effectively translates to abundance of generated electricity power, for example? Yeah, any of you can take on the question, please.
Yeah, I think it's important to align gas development with power sector planning.
Okay.
And show what we call timely supply agreement, which is also very important. And also to incentivize a private sector, participation to ensure that those obligations are also met.
Okay. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you. In addition to that, any form of credit enhancement that can be given to the power sector that will help continuously give assurance to the gas supplier that they will get paid for gas supplied will also help the system.
Okay. Fantastic. Let's applaud them again. Please, the more you applaud them, the more you inspire them to give you the best so you can do better. Thank you so much. Now, the next question is directed to Mr. Gbite Falade. Let me just give you a little background. Nigeria has inadequate or improper gas infrastructure to harness its gas resources. These are common challenges, problems we see. So we're talking about practical solutions. Now, what strategies and actionable steps should we deploy in order to achieve adequate gas infrastructure? That's question number one. Question number two, who is responsible for this? And question number three, and how long would it take to achieve this gas infrastructure adequacy? 3-1 questions.
Yes, thank you. And I'm going to answer them in no particular order.
Okay.
Historically to date, government, through what we used to know as NGC, that has now become split into NGMC and NGIC, had been the one responsible for building out the gas infrastructure. And the key gas infrastructure today are the pipeline systems. It started with ELPS, the Escaros Lagos pipeline system. It started and then went on to OB3, which is the next in the gas master plan, and then to AKK, and there are still a few others. The scale of the capital required is significantly beyond the balance sheet of this government institution. We must move to a place where some of these pipelines can be concessioned as what can be concession to private investors, and with government providing a credit backstop or being the buyer of last resort for the capacity that is going to be built. That, in my mind, will help. So traditionally, we're coming from where government alone is doing it. Now we need to move into a zone where it is being concessioned. How can it be accelerated? Beyond it being a federal government-led thing, states in contiguous areas can come together and jointly provide the seed capital in partnership with private investor to build out some of this grid. The reality is that these gas infrastructure are development enablers.
Okay.
It's easier and cheaper for people to go and site industry where they know they have access to tee off gas supply, whether it's for their kiln, their oven, or self-generation, than otherwise. So it should be seen as a development priority by states in collaboration with each other, building out corridors, because as more industries come, government revenue by way of taxes, whether corporate taxes or personal income taxes, increase. So states should not look at themselves as being too small to take accountability and responsibility for building out some of this infrastructure. If one particular state is too small, they can combine together on a regional basis. In addition, and just identify very niche corridors where there are probably already existing industrial presence, and they can get adoption. In my mind, those will help in helping to build out the gas infrastructure, which then begins to enable the development of the molecules, especially for domestic usage.
Okay, wonderful. I hope we are getting something we are learning from it. So please, let's pay attention. Like I told you, it's a privilege to hear from experts in the field. The next question is directed to Mr. T.S. Jackrich. Let me just give you a little background before I ask you the question. Many policies and regulatory reforms on gas exist to advance rapid gas development and use. A good and very specific example is the Petroleum Industry Act, which you're already aware of 2021, which provides fiscal and regulatory frameworks to attract investment, including concessions for gas exploitation, specific licenses for midstream and downstream operations, and a hydrocarbon tax with incentives. Question number one. I'm sure you are ready for my question.
Yes.
What areas within the PIA could be strengthened to drive rapid economic growth for Nigeria?
Thank you. I think the PIA is a major step forward, but one key area that I think is very important from the business and investor point of view is the gas fiscal incentive is actually very important. Implementation of that is key, and also having the right pricing model, that is also very important. And then knocking off those bureaucratic bottlenecks, that enable, that shortens the investment window. I think these are the key areas that I think, if it's done, will enable any potential investor, both local and foreign investor, to come in. Because if you put in so much in infrastructure, you don't have that incentive to have like tax break and all that. That makes it very difficult. And also having the right pricing model.
Okay. Thank you so much. Let's applaud him, please. So we move back to Mr. Falade. I'll just give you a brief background, then I'll ask you the game-changing questions. There are 3 massive gas pipeline projects that have the potential to not only serve Nigeria, but also to serve Africa, Europe, and the world by extension, which are the Abuja-Kaduna-Kano gas pipeline project, the Trans-Sahara gas pipeline project, and the Nigeria-Morocco gas plant pipeline project. These 3 identified projects originate from Nigeria, but we traverse many countries. My question is, Assuming one or more of these projects come to fruition, how can this contribute to the eradication of Africans' energy poverty? Over to you, please.
Okay, thank you very much. In the quest to produce goods, one of the most major costs in the mix of cost elements is always energy costs. Today, gas is cheaper on a calorific value than any of the other alternative fuels. So when you have gas available and you're able to switch from using whether it's LPFO or using AGO or whatever fuel oil that you are using, you have a significant savings. And depending on which one of them you're using, the cost savings for energy cost could be as much as 40 to 50%.
Okay.
So off the bat, just because you have the near of presence of gas allows your industries to operate cheaper, and their goods are then able to compete better than the ones that are being imported. And that's economic prosperity for the African continent. So straight off the bat, the cost advantage of gas relative to the alternative fuels will translate to economic prosperity for our people.
Okay. Thank you so much. Let's applaud him, please. Can you make that louder, please? Thank you, thank you, thank you. The next question will go to Mr. T.S. Jackrich. What financing strategy and actionable steps should industry stakeholders in Africa or Nigeria adopt or follow to guarantee access to adequate finance and subsequent exit from Africans' energy poverty?
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think to guarantee access to adequate finance and truly exit energy poverty, we have to start by building investors' confidence. That's very, very important.
Okay.
And that means clear policies, there has to be a transparent governance system, and then there has to be, predictable investment returns. I mean, these are the key drivers.
Yeah.
And again, it's also important to create room for government de-risking and guaranteeing this investment portfolio, because if we don't do that, then there is a major challenge for private capital investment or capital injection.
Yeah.
Because we pretty much experience the same thing in what we do, because we are trying to invest in gas, but the point is these are the exposures. So it's important for such policy considerations.
Okay. Thank you so much. Let's applaud him, please. It appears to me we are moving too fast. This session is supposed to be for 1 hour. I'm sure you like the way we are moving. Okay, so we'll go to the last section. This is a general question, so we have to attend to it individually. There's a background to the question. About a week ago, specifically, October 23rd, 2025, to be precise, NNPC Limited circulated a press release in which its group chief executive officer, we know the name, hailed by President Tinubu for his role on the emergence of the Honorable Minister of State, Petroleum Resources, and also the MD of Nigeria LNG as chairman and secretary general, respectively, of Gas Exporting Countries Forum. Now the question is this: what strategies and actionable steps do you think this duo should deploy to help Africa eradicate energy poverty through global export of natural gas?
Okay.
Who will go first?
Okay, so I think we have to advocate what I would call fairer global market access. It's also important to strengthen regional gas cooperation. That's actually very important. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
I believe it's a fantastic opportunity that we have, that Nigerians are occupying at the same time both the chairmanship and the secretary generalship of this body. This body is what, in my mind, OPEC is to oil. That's what this body is to gas. And in terms of what should be a key focus by way of agenda for our continent, today, as I mentioned in my keynote speech, Africa is holding the shorter end of the stick of the decision of COP26, where all the lending institutions decided that they will cut back on funding hydrocarbon-related projects. Africa is at the receiving end in a very unfair way. Today, the total greenhouse gas emission coming out of Africa is barely 3% of what exists globally. If anybody should be suffering from the penalty of not funding hydrocarbon fuels, it shouldn't be Africa. So hopefully, these our two worthy ambassadors can help lead the charge of advocacy that helps to rebalance the shorter end of the stick that we are holding, where the facts are really put at the table, and Africa is at the table in advocating for a just and equitable treatment when it comes to attracting financing for development.
Okay.
It's more so when the people that have taken these decisions leverage hydrocarbon resources to get to the level of industrialization they are now, and they're then looking back and asking us not to leverage our God-given potentials. And I think we've not really had Africans at the table making the right advocacy, saying the right things, that the privilege we have now of these two appointments will just help strengthen our presence at the table and our capacity to speak for the economic prosperity of Africa by being allowed to use our God-given resources.
Thank you so much. Put your hands together. I'm supposed to be asking our panelists the last question. I want to reserve that time to test the audience. I want to know whether they have learned anything from this discussion. Are you ready for my question? So I'm going to be asking the audience. We have had a panel section for almost 1 hour now. We have said some things. I believe you have learned certain things. Can somebody just tell us one thing you have learned from this panel section? Do you permit me to point at you?
There's a gentleman.
Okay, there's a hand there. Please stand up. You have the floor. I want 3 persons to respond. Then we'll close this section. Can we help him with a mic? The media. Is it possible? Okay. Let's do that quickly, please. We want to assess you based on what we have learned. Guaranteeing Africa's exit from energy poverty through natural gas project financing and development with a focus on Nigeria. Strategies and actionable steps. What have you learned? What have you gained from this section? Yeah.
Yes, my name is Tahir from PCCS. So I've learned that in bridging the gap of gas infrastructure, there should be a level of collaboration between the states and the private sector. This will help to accelerate, bringing out the gas molecules to serve the domestic market. So this is one of the key points I've learned, the strategic collaboration between private sector and states.
Right. Thank you. Let's put our hands together for him. Yeah, I see a hand up there. Give the mic to him. I think the third person should be a female.
Okay, my name is Alfred Obo. So I've learned that with the right policy from the government, the enabling environment, incentivizing the energy sector, which is the gas section, and with the right investment will come in, and the energy poverty will start disappearing. Of course, it's not going to be in one-off. It will go gradually when the policy starts impacting positively in our economy. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The last opportunity, we'll give it to a female. And I have one in front.
I think the last point that was made is what I took the most from. That is that Africa suffers a huge disadvantage. I think more really disproportionate in the geopolitics of decision making. So to exit Africa and to reduce energy poverty, Africa needs to start changing some of those unfair decision making, and the recent appointments that we've had, hopefully Nigeria will be able to lead the charge on that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's put our hands together. On this note, on behalf of the organizer of this great program, I want to thank our experts that have contributed greatly to this topic. We appreciate your coming. Thank you, and God bless you. So can you applaud them very, very well as they move to their seat?